Good evening, everyone. I'll call to order the Arvada City Council meeting for January 28th, 2019, and call upon Councilmember Nancy Ford.
Would you please join me in a moment of silent reflection? And now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kristen Rush, if you'll do a roll call.
Mayor Williams?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Marriott?
Here.
Councilmember Pfeiffer? Councilmember Ford?
Here.
Councilmember Jones? Councilmember McGough?
Here.
Councilmember Miller?
Here.
Mr. Marriott, I'd entertain a motion with regard to our absent council members.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that we excuse Councilmember Pfeiffer and Councilmember Jones. Motions
to excuse. Both are out of town on business-related matters. All votes cast. That passed 5-0. Mr. Pfeiffer and Mr. Jones will be excused from tonight's meeting. Before we go on, I do want to reiterate on the record that we have two matters that were scheduled for public hearing tonight. The first item, Council Bill 19001, regarding AAA inflatables, and the second one being several items relating to Carson Farms preliminary development plan and rezoning and preliminary plat, and that is also going to be continued. We always try to let applicants know if we're not going to have a full council contingent, and they have both requested that we continue tonight's hearing, which is, I think, fair to the applicant, but it's also fair to the public to let you all know so that you don't have to stick around. With that, the minutes for January 7th, 2019, are there any changes or corrections? Seeing none, those minutes will stand approved as presented. Next, we have recognitions, communications, and the first is an update from the Arvada Historical Society. Good evening.
Evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My name is Scott Staley, and I'd just like to give you a review of what we've done so far, our first quadrant, I guess, of our fiscal year, which is from September 1 to, the whole year is September 1 to August 31st, and this is going to cover September 1 till December 31st. My name's Scott Staley. I grew up in Alta Vista when it was first being built, and I went to Arvada High School and Arvada West, and I graduated from the University of Colorado in 4 years with a degree in political science.
You're the one.
So, I've pretty much grown up in Arvada, have never thought that there was any other place that I would have ever cared to live. I've never thought of living in Aurora, which is out there by Kansas, I think, and all these Lakewood, and so Arvada's always really pretty much been my home. Okay, let's get into our year at Arvada, at the Arvada Historical Society. We really kind of jump right into things. We take part in the Harvest Festival Parade. A couple of years ago, we got first place, so that helped us. We then are open that whole weekend at McEvoy House, and then I'm usually at the Flour Mill, where I have open house there, and people are free to come in and discover a building that they've been by a million times and have never been in, so they get to see that. So that's our first jump off. Then we have our annual cemetery tour, and Mr. McGough has helped with that in the past. He helped start that, and we've done it now, I think, for 15 straight years. And this past year, we did it for the very first time. We opened it up to 3 different cemeteries, which maybe most people wouldn't know of that exist in Arvada, but we always traditionally have been the Arvada Cemetery. And then this year we opened up to the Ralston Cemetery, which is out at 64th, out there by Indiana. And then our third cemetery for sure, which is always really new. The only reason you might have ever gone there is if you climbed over the fence and were bad. But it's called the Belgian, the Belgian cemetery, and it's a true family cemetery. It was started by the Belgian family. One of our past members who's deceased,
Dorothy Galloway.
Dorothy Galloway, her family had some ties. When you start looking at some of these families, sometimes they seem to be related to everybody, and so she was one of them. But there are, that we know of, 11 or 12 that are buried there, and there's a bunch of big tall trees, and so we finally got in and kind of cleaned it up, and we hope to do more in the future. So that was our big event in September. Then in October, we usually take part in, and we did this past year, in the Scarecrow Festival, and I try to have the mill open then. And then really our big event is Trick or Treat Street, and we had a letdown this year, and I guess it was despite us being on the other side of the tracks. For some reason, commuter rail really seemed to affect us this past year. The year before we'd had over 1,000. This year we had just 750, but that's an event that we enjoy taking part in. We always get plenty of candy. So if anyone ever wants to give away candy, we're always ready to take it. Let's see what else. The trick or treat. Then we have the oral history in November, and we have at least 2 of those a year. We had the first one, of this fiscal year, we had about 2 or 3 people that took part that are old timer that are from here. I mean, they are originals. They were born in Arvada, or if not Denver, but they're natives of Colorado. And one of them is Anita Marcuson, and she was in that. Then we have our Christmas yard sale and the McElvoy, and that was really pretty good this year. That's in November. And then we have our annual Christmas tea on December 3rd. And Anita, again, she fronts these teas. And so they are a big moneymaker for the Arvada Historical Society. They sell out. We have if someone wants to volunteer male only, we may have enough this year, but our Valentine tea is coming up, and we traditionally have just men that serve the tea. So, but these all sell out, and these are a great event. And then, let's see. So the Christmas tea, then we have our open house December, about a week later. At McElvoy, and again, I try to have the mill open and allows people to come in and see what it's like. That's on December 10th, and then it depends on usually the year or the weather, sometimes with Lanyap, where we've always tried to take part in that also. Let's see, this year we added at our annual open house, we featured the introduction of the new book, New Frontiers, with a book signing by the author. And so we gave a special rate to those people, and Anita has been out in the hallway there hawking. This money all goes back to the Historical Society and the City of Arvada. So buy your books, buy early, buy often. Let's see. And so our purchases this year, we purchased a beautiful brand new oak showcase for the Arvada Center Museum, and we've been currently running 2 exhibits. It's just about a replica of the other one that we had bought for the Arvada Center several years ago. So we change those out usually on a quarterly basis. And then some of us met with the City of Arvada, Mr. Mark Devon, and I'm sorry I forgot to introduce you. And I had written a letter to the city, and they so graciously called me in on the carpet. No, they were very good. And they presented us with a $15,000 grant effective this month, right, Mr. Devon? So we thank you very much for that. In this next quarter, we'll have, like I said, we'll have another tea and Valentine's, and then we're scheduled to have an oral history about April 6th. That I think some of the details are yet to be determined on that. And then our big thing that we really like to push are the school tours. Nancy Young, who's here tonight, she heads up those school tours, and so last year we had about 700 elementary school students, and we do try to, through all of our events, I think that we're always very, very good about trying to collaborate and access all different kinds of people. Like myself, I'll do tours to older groups, to learning disabled people at the mill, and we just really try to access all those different kinds of people across the city. Mainly, it's the city. Let's see, what else? Oh, and the last thing, we had a meeting this week, and so we're hopefully we're kicking off a collaborative effort with the city and the Chamber of Commerce and the community to market the new book. So that's it so far. Any questions?
Mr. Marriott?
Thank you.
Scott, hang on before you take off. I have a quick question for you. One of the things you mentioned a couple times, and first of all, congratulations on all you guys have accomplished. This is a lot in the first quarter, and particularly the winter and holiday quarter. But one of the things you mentioned a number of times was the flour mill, and it always seems to me that I would sure love it if the Historical Society could figure out a way to make fuller utilization of the flour mill, or more opportunities for Arvada citizens and visitors to Arvada to see that. That's such a gem. And now that the parking garage is finished and there's no more construction, impacting your ability to use that it would sure be great if we could see, great usage out of that. That's really one of our true treasures. So.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I've tried over the years to just have it open, which means you have to have volunteers. And so, some people may say, oh yeah, I'll help you. But then when it comes, push comes to shove, then it's another thing. But, when this winter is over, this is traditionally a down time for that. But, we're trying to, we've over the years really worked on a garden. And so commuter rail will be able to see kind of the fruits of that, but we really try to plant different kinds of things there. We've grown broomcorn, tomatoes, all kinds of different things back there. But I wish I could give you a better answer, but it's always on my mind.
Yeah.
Always is.
Just something to think about.
Yeah,
Thank you
no.
very much for all you do. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott.
Good job.
Next, I'll call upon Mayor Pro Tem John Marriott.
Thank you, Your Honor. It is with great pleasure that I get to present a recognition and an award tonight. So on September 13th, 2018, Parks Manager Michael McDowell received the highest honor that can be bestowed on any Colorado Parks and Recreation Association member, the Fellow Award. The award has been in existence since 1957, which is as long as the Colorado Park and Recreation Association has existed.
Why don't we get Michael on down here?
Come on down, Michael. Fellow award criteria requires that nominees must have worked a minimum of 8 years full-time service in a leadership capacity with a minimum of 5 years full-time service in Colorado. The award is given to individuals that embody the following traits and skill sets: leadership, strategic thinking and planning, partnership and collaboration building, innovation, and service. Michael has embodied all of these traits and especially excelled in the service trait, so it was very apparent that he's most deserving of this award. While receiving an award like this is special, even more special is the fact that Michael's father, Gary McDowell, won the Fellow Award in 1976. Gary was the director of Lakewood Parks and Recreation at the time and had served as the Colorado Parks and Recreation Association president in 1974. Congratulations to Michael, and what a special achievement it is to be recognized for excellence through the same award won by his father 42 years before. And so I have the award here that I'd like to bring down, but I want to read it first. It says, Michael McDonald, in recognition of receiving the 2018 Colorado Parks and Recreation Association Fellow Award, and is presented this 28th day of January 2019 by Mayor Mark Williams and the rest of City Council.
He does
me to be able to accomplish something, that's, of course, I had to have support from mayor and council, all the great staff I work with. I've worked with everybody I think the city has employed, and an awful lot with all these folks here. Of course, Gordon Rusink, my boss and our director, and all of my wonderful staff I have with the Parks Division. Today I have my wife here, Amy, with me also, and it's such a pleasure, again, to be able to represent the city and, of course, our profession through our state association. So thanks again. Appreciate it.
Michael, we congratulate you on this award. We're so very proud of you and what you've done for this great city over the years, and you exemplify the A-team. Thank you. Next, public comment on items that aren't on the agenda. I don't have any sign-up sheets, but if anybody has any matters they'd like to bring up at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion and open it up for new business. We have a few items on the consent agenda. The first is a resolution authorizing Arvada to purchase chemicals for water treatment plant operations in an amount not to exceed approximately $864,000 a year. Second one is a resolution authorizing an amendment to a construction contract between Arvada and In Situ Form Technologies for trenchless sewer main replacement in an amount of $1.3 million. The next one is a resolution authorizing a construction contract between Arvada and American West Construction for bridge repairs in an amount not to exceed approximately $399,000. Next one is a resolution accepting a special warranty deed for a public right-of-way from SSM LLC pertaining to Skyline Estates filing number 1. They're at Quail Street from about 54th Avenue to the future 53rd place. Final item on the consent agenda is a resolution authorizing change order number 2 to a construction contract between Arvada and APC Construction Company in the amount of approximately $282,000 for the 2018 mill overlay and reconstruction. Mr. Marriott.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that consent items number R19-011 through R19-015 be approved.
Motions for approval of the consent agenda. All votes are cast. That passes 5-0 with Mr. Pfeiffer and Mr. Jones being absent. Next, we have ordinances on first reading. Mr. Marriott.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that Council Bill 19-004, an ordinance authorizing the acquisition of certain property along West 72nd Avenue, generally from Swadley Court to Kipling Street, and along Oak Street, generally from Parfait Street to West 72nd Avenue, for the construction of street, sidewalk, utility, drainage, railroad grade separation, and/or related improvements as part of the West 72nd Avenue from Kipling to Sim Street project number 18-ST-30, and Council Bill 19-005, an ordinance amending Section 98-70, exempt sales, and Section 98-78, exemptions of Article 3, Sales and Use Tax, of Chapter 98, Taxation of the Arvada City Code pertaining to agreements to effectuate exemptions, both be approved on first reading, ordered published in full, and a public hearings set for February 11th, 2019 at 6:15 p.m.
Motions for approval of ordinances on first reading. We'll have public hearings on those. As Mr. Marriott has indicated, on February the 11th, all votes are cast. That passes 5-0 with Mr. Pfeiffer and Mr. Jones being absent. Next, we have the ratification and approval of CP 2018-0003, a resolution by the Planning Commission for the City of Arvada, Colorado, adopting the 2014 Arvada Comprehensive Plan as Arvada's 3-mile plan pursuant to CRS 31-12-1051 as amended. Mr. Devon?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Planning Manager Rob Smetana will summarize this matter for us.
Members of council, as you stated, this is a resolution stating that the city is in compliance with Section 31-12-105-1E of the Colorado Revised Statutes, which basically restricts annexations that would extend the municipal boundaries by more than 3 miles in any given year, and that the city has a plan in place for annexations within our annexation boundary. As you're aware, probably, the city did not have any annexations in the past year that met that criteria. And we do utilize our 2014 comprehensive plan as our 3-mile plan. The Planning Commission did unanimously adopt the resolution at their December 18th meeting.
Okay, any questions from council or action? Mr. McGough,
Yes, I'm prepared to make a motion.
you may proceed.
Okay, I move that CP 2018-0003, a resolution by the Planning Commission for the City of Arvada, Colorado, adopting the 2014 Arvada Comprehensive Plan as Arvada's 3-mile plan pursuant to Section 3112-105, parens 1, Colorado Revised Statutes as amended, be ratified and approved. This motion is based on the findings of fact adopted by the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Motions for ratification and approval. All votes are cast. That passes 5-0 with Mr. Pfeiffer and Mr. Jones being absent. Next, again, thanks to our city attorney for changing our procedures so that we could start public hearings before 6:30. Under our revised provisions, we can open at 6:15. It's now 6:21. I'll first entertain a motion to continue items A, let's see, that would be C, D, E, and F, correct? And those are being continued to February the 4th, is that correct?
At 6:15.
Okay, I would entertain a motion. Mr. Marriott.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that public hearings A, Council Bill 19-001, C, CP 2018-002, D, CB 19-002, E, Carson Farms Preliminary Development Plan, and F, Carson Farms Preliminary Development Plat, all be postponed and moved to February 4th, 2019.
All votes are cast. Passes 5-0. Mr. Pfeiffer, Mr. Jones being absent, those matters will be continued to February 4th at 6:15. Thank you. Which greatly reduces our agenda for this evening. And so at this time, I'll open the public hearing on Council Bill 19-001, an ordinance rezoning certain land within the city of, the Easter Owens Preliminary Development Plan, 6712 Fig Street. Mr. Devon.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of council, again, Planning Manager Rob Smetana will introduce this item. I believe we have a presentation by the applicants as well.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. The applicant is requesting approval of a preliminary development plan for an approximately 27,000 square foot, light industrial office warehouse building on approximately 2 acres. The site is located just east of the future Fig Street and 69th Avenue intersection. This project does comply with all the standards of the Land Development Code, and no modifications are being requested. Staff does recommend approval of the project based on the preliminary development plan approval criteria found in the Land Development Code. The Planning Commission did unanimously recommend approval of the PDP at their December 18th meeting. We have received the posting log and affidavit, and they are in order. The applicant is in attendance for a presentation and questions, and we also have Senior Planner Jake Nichols here as well to answer any questions.
Very good. I'll make the posting log and the affidavit of mailing part of the record. Anyone that wishes to testify in this matter, if you'll raise your right hand. Swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give in these proceedings to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
You may proceed.
My name is Kirk Douglas. I am pleased to be here. Thank you, Mayor and members of council. I have represented the Easter Owens Company as well as the Easter family for 35 years. 32 years ago, we moved the business from Denver to Arvada, and we started in Arvada at 6522 Fig Street with 12 employees and 20,000 square feet of facility. That building is still there. It's now occupied by a company called Rocky Mountain Home Care. As you'll hear our progression here, we've moved down the street several times. 1991, we added 10,000 square feet to that building. So it was 30,000 square feet of facility at that time. We had 22 employees in 1991. In 1995, we outgrew that building, and we developed 6490 Fig Street, which is the building immediately to the south on Fig Street. It's a beige-colored building, and we divided our operations at that point in time, with the fabrication and painting being in the north building and the wiring being in a separate building on the contiguous property immediately to the south. To give you just a quick overview, Easter Owens is a custom integrator. I told your Planning Commission we build boxes, and that's basically what we do. Boxes anywhere from 6 inches by 6 inches to the size of 60 feet long and 12 feet wide that look like buildings. And those boxes have custom control equipment that control all sorts of systems, from traffic signals at each of the corners of intersections. You'll see little boxes, and we make those boxes and integrate those controls, to the Aswan Dam in Egypt. Easter Owens did all of the custom electrical integration systems for that hydroelectric dam and shipped those facilities to Germany and then to Egypt. So the company literally works around the world. In 2004, we had outgrown the two buildings at 6522 and 6490 Fig Street, and we moved up the street to 6692 Fig Street. We built that building over the 2004-2005 period. It's 56,000 square feet and has several mezzanines that act inside the building that actually make it much larger than that. And we currently have 75 full-time employees. So the company's grown by a factor of 7 over the 32 years that the company has been in the city of Arvada. The company, I have no other way to say it, has been a good corporate citizen in the community. Dave Easter, our chairman, has served as the chairman of the economic development arm of the city a couple of times in the last 32 years. He's been the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. He's also been the chairman of Jefferson County Economic Development. The company has paid well over $2 million in property taxes, as well as several $1 million in use taxes and sales taxes. So it's really been a good relationship, the city to the corporation to the city, both directions. Our proposed project is on the contiguous lot, as you can see on the drawing there, or the picture there. Our existing facility is the white rooftop you see there, and our new project is the adjacent lot to the immediate north. Simply stated, it's 27,000 square feet, it's 24 feet tall, and we've attempted to make the building look like an office building on its east and west exposures for the benefit of the neighbors. But other than that, it looks pretty much like the existing building that's a 6692. We will move the wiring function of the company across the parking lot and keep the fabrication and painting function in the existing facility. And we would hope to occupy somewhere between a half and all of the new building. If you would have asked us last year at this time how much we would occupy, it would have been 100%. But we have found out that it's going to take a couple years between the entitlement process and construction process, and we can't promise you what the economy will look like 12 months from now when we have the facility ready to move in. We have worked with your staff. I don't believe we've had any issue that we've been unable to resolve with your staff. Obviously, we've had our neighborhood meeting that is required under the process, and at that neighborhood meeting, we had 4 people attend, representing 3 households. I would tell you the biggest issue that was raised is your issue, and that is Eldridge Street. We are asked all the time, what do you plan to do with Eldridge Street? And it's not ours to handle Eldridge Street. We haven't accessed Eldridge Street with any of our 3 buildings prior, and won't with this building. And as a result, the only thing we've done is to pay into the Eldridge Improvement Fund
but we have no desire now or any time in the future to access Eldridge Street. So we don't care whether it gets built or not. And that's why I say it's your issue, not ours. The issue that is ours is our neighbors have asked us to be sensitive to our east elevation. And to that extent, we've planted or plan to plant several coniferous trees that will provide virtually 100% block from their view of our parking areas that will be on the south side of our building. And we've agreed that there would be no building lighting on the east elevation that would in any way cause fugitive light to enter their yards to the east of us. I believe we've addressed all the neighbors' comments, but we'll see if a neighbor shows up. The Planning Commission, obviously, as you've heard, has recommended unanimous approval. There was not one negative comment from any Planning Commission member, and no member of the public attended the Planning Commission meeting, so I can't comment whether or not anyone from the public has concerns that they missed the Planning Commission hearing. I would be pleased to answer any questions you have of me relative to the project. We have our engineer here from Galloway Engineering that has worked on this, and frankly, we hired Galloway because we think they're one of the better and best engineers in this part of town. So if you have a technical question that is beyond my ability, we'll turn that over to Galloway. Otherwise, I'd be glad to answer any questions you have of me.
Very good. Is there any member of the public that would like to address City Council on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion. As such, there's no need for rebuttal, but I'll certainly open it up for City Council questions or action. Mr. Marriott?
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't have any questions, so as long as my other fellow council members don't either, I'd be happy to make a motion.
You may.
Okay. Move that Easter Owens Preliminary Development Plan located at 6712 Fig Street be approved subject to the attached updated condition of approval. This motion is based on the findings of fact adopted by the Planning Commission.
And if I would let you in to vote, you could vote. All votes are cast. That passes 5-0. Thank you for the great work that Easter Owens has done in our community over the years. If you'll pass it on to the principals, and we look forward to this project moving forward. And I'm going to take this as another opportunity to remind City Council that as we look at our development plans and how as we move forward, remember these projects where Planning Commission's unanimously approved, City Council's unanimously approved, there's been no citizen testimony, that to the extent we can get some of these things dealt with more administratively, I think it's in the best interest of everybody. So, thank you. Congratulations.
You're welcome. That tells a little bit about our 63-year history, and we get paid to pass those out. So.
Great. And some of us were there so we know the property well when we're there for the most recent celebration. So,
thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'll open the public hearing on Council Bill 19003, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the City of Arvada, Colorado Sales and Use Tax Revenue Bonds, Series 2019. Mr. Devon.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, tonight we are asking you for the approval of an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the city sales and use tax bonds, revenue bonds, as you described, in order for us to pursue the projects that were approved with the favorable outcome of the election of Measure 3F. As you recall, that election result was by a 66 to 34% margin, the next step is for us to have these bonds issued and for us to begin the project. Just as a reminder, the bond issue will increase the city's sales and use tax debt to approximately $79.8 million with annual payments of about $5.5 million for 20 years and a total maximum repayment cost of $125 million. The source of the payments is the city's portion of the general fund that is reserved for capital projects. As council knows, by ordinance, the city must reserve an amount equal to 20% of the first cent of the city's annual sales and use tax collection, which must be used for major capital projects, major capital maintenance, and/or bond issuance for capital projects. The estimated amount that will be reserved for capital projects from that fund in 2019 is almost $11.5 million, and this amount is expected to escalate by about 2 to 3% annually. I mention the amount because I think it's important for everyone to know and the council to know that it is about approximately 50% of that fund that we're asking to reserve for these bond payments. I think it's important to remind the public and the council the very intentional process that the council went through last year in 2018, starting at about this time, actually about a year ago, during the council retreat when the city council identified the fact that you wanted to put these funds towards major capital projects that were desired by our community. We consulted with the Citizens Capital Improvement Project Committee priorities that were established actually through two different committee assignments, one in 2009, another one in 2015, that identified the widening and improvements to Ralston Road, as well as the West 72nd improvements, and in particular the grade separation at the Union Pacific Railroad line. With the fact that we were ending in 2018 debt service for other projects that were issued in 1998, we had $4.5 million of the $5.5 million covered, and through the hard work of our finance staff, we identified an additional $1 million to put towards the debt service project as described in this report. Ralston Road and West 72nd Avenue are major east-west arterials with better than 20,000 vehicle trips a day. We have approximately 18 trains that cross at the Union Pacific Railroad line at West 72nd Avenue. So not only will these projects relieve traffic congestion, but will also improve public safety for commuters and pedestrians and motorists. I think the justification behind these projects are well documented. We have been engaged in rating calls with major credit rating agencies, which have gone very well. We've benefited from the excellent guidance from Stifel, is it Stifel? David Bell. So I won't pronounce the name of the company, but I'll say David Bell and Karen Crawford are here, who have provided us with excellent guidance as we get ready to for this issuance. And of course, our excellent finance team, Brian Archer and Lisa Yagi, have done a great job in representing the financial conditions of our organization, which are very favorable to getting this work done. Therefore, we are recommending approval of this ordinance, which would allow us to issue these bonds and move forward with the capital projects.
Very good. Is there any member of the public that would like to address City Council on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion. The only thing I'd add to Mr. Devin's comments is that this is being done without any tax increase. This is being 100% financed both by the previous West 72nd bonds that were paid off, as Mr. Devin pointed out, and then efficient work by our team in terms of finding and appropriating appropriate funds, capital improvement funds, to be able to finance this. I'll let Ms. Ford, if you're ready to make the motion, you may.
I move that CB 19-003, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the City of Arvada, Colorado, sales and use tax revenue bonds, Series 2019, be approved on final reading, numbered 4674, and ordered published by title only.
Mr. Marriott?
Thank you, Your Honor. I have just a quick question, probably for Mr. Archer, I would guess. I had brought this up a couple times, and this may not be the place for it, but my hope had been that there would be somewhere within the sale of these bonds for some amount to potentially be reserved out for Arvadans to invest in their hometown. So rather than all going to a single institutional investor, that there might be some slice of it that could be offered to the public. Is that anything you can speak on tonight, or is that anything that has any possibilities?
So we talked to Stifel a little bit about this as a possibility, and it's something that, because we're doing a public sale, I don't think we'll be able to do. Certainly, the pieces themselves will be broken out in $5,000 chunks, but most likely the only way they'll be able to buy it is if they buy it on the open market or in a resale position. And so they're continuing to look into it, but they didn't find anything that would allow us to break them and have the opportunity to sell them in the way that you had requested before.
Yeah, I get the $5,000 increments. It would just be if there was some mechanism possible, and I don't know. I obviously not an expert in this, don't know what it might be, but I just think we bond so infrequently, and I know myself as an Arvadan being on council, it wouldn't be appropriate for me to do it at this time, but the opportunity to invest in my own hometown is something I would treasure greatly, and I feel like there's probably a lot of people like me that would take great pride in investing in our hometown. So as you go forward with continuing conversations, if there is any way for that to happen, I think I would love to see us at least approach that if we could. So thank you.
Very good. I'll be supporting Ms. Ford's motion. This is, I think it's very exciting that, first of all, the great work that our team has put together in terms of making this project feasible. I want to applaud City Council for the recognition of how important it was to expand this project from what was originally contemplated to go all the way to Sim Street. I think that took some political courage on the part of City Council, and I thank my fellow council members for having that courage. And most of all, thanks to the citizens of Arvada for recognizing the importance of these projects and for recognizing that we've been good stewards of their money and that this is a financially responsible way to get these two hugely important projects underway in a very timely fashion. So with that, all votes have been cast, and that passes 5-0 with Mr. Pfeiffer and Mr. Jones being absent, although I'm quite confident that had they been here, they would have been in full support as well.
Mayor and members of council, if I might just add one comment. I know that Mr. Devon already recognized Kim Crawford, but I wanted to make a special recognition. Our outside bond counsel is Dee Weiser, and Dee and Kim Crawford work together on this project, and as you know, Dee's been with the city for many, many years working on bond issues and other matters that we've had. And in this particular matter, I think Kim Crawford has done all the heavy lifting, but what a great team we have between David Bell and Kim Crawford and your finance department. It's really been a pleasure to work with them.
Right. Well, thanks to them as well. Very good. Next, that finishes our public hearings. Anybody wish to address City Council during public comment? I'll close the second public comment portion, open it up for reports from City Council. We will, it's coming up again. We do have a appointment to the Rocky Flats Stewardship Council. If you ready to make that motion? Did you find it there? I think the appointment is to reappoint Mr. McGough with the alternate being Sandra McDonald from our team.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. I move to reappoint Council Member McGough and Sandra McDonald to the Rocky Flats Stewardship Council.
Having served on this council, I thank Mr. McGough for doing the heavy lifting on it. You get to hear a lot of very detailed information, but it's important that we have elected representatives from all the surrounding municipalities who have been impacted by Rocky Flats or who are potentially impacted by what has happened in the past at Rocky Flats, and the information that's given there, I think, is quite beneficial, and it's been important that we've been at the table all these many years. Lorraine Anderson was there for a number of years, and then I followed, and then Mr. McGough has stepped in. So, with that. That passes 5-0.
Could I speak just a moment to that to say
yes.
There are 11 member governments represented on the Rocky Flats Stewardship Council. That's Boulder County, Jefferson County, and the municipalities surrounding Rocky Flats. So it's there are 5 meetings a year, and in those meetings we are the recipients of a lot of scientific and detailed information, as the mayor indicated. And the purpose of the council is, as it's titled, stewardship, to receive the information, to make judgments on that, and to ensure that, that all the regulations are enforced and complied with, and all the standards, and that we are assured of that through the presentations of information in those meetings. So, and I must say that it's very, very helpful to have Sandra McDonald there to translate a lot of that scientific information for me. She sits, we sit right together, and she says, "Are you sure you understand that?" And when I say no, she translates very quickly, and I think I understand pretty well
That's
because
great.
of her.
Very good. Okay, any other reports from council? Seeing none, Mr. Devon?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we will have a combined business meeting and workshop on February 11th. The February 11th workshop item will be an update for you and for the entire council and the community on waste hauler options. We'll be talking about the revised timeline and some other steps, and you know, seeking some direction and comment from the city council at that time.
Very good. Mr. Daly? No report from the city attorney. We stand adjourned. Thank you.